Tennessee is a state full of all kinds of interesting museums. Many are quite specialized, and we know of at least one that's truly one of a kind. It stands on the banks of the Mississippi River over in Memphis, and as Tammy Arnder shows us, it's truly dedicated to the craftsmanship of metalwork.
The National Ornamental Metal Museum, located on the banks of the Mississippi River near downtown Memphis, isn't your ordinary museum. This sprawling compound is devoted exclusively to the preservation and promotion of metalwork. It's not just a home for fancy fences and gates, some of the most common uses for ornamental metal, but it showcases the art and craft of ecclesiastical and ritual pieces to architectural and public art displays. Jim Masterson is the shop foreman.
The only strictly metals museum in the country. There's one other in the world, and that's in France, except that they have their permanent collection that's always on display. Our permanent collection comes out now and then, depending on what people are enjoying at the time.
A lot of things that you touch every day are cast. Your car parts for your appliances, your jewelry, if you think about anything you touch all day long.
Jeanne Marsh is one of the artists in residence at the Metal Museum. As the daughter of an architect, she gained a love of the arts as a child. She's accomplished in blacksmithing, welding, and metal casting. She loves meddling with molten metal, even though it can get scorching hot on those warm summer days in Memphis.
When I walked in here, I had no idea, so I just started playing and seeing what would work for me, and so it's really been a great time, a lot of fun, and I've made a lot of things that just surprised me.
Jeanne casts a decorative light switch plate using leaves from the museum trees and her own design. She loves the creative aspect of the craft, but also knows what she makes can be of use to someone.
I like art that is functional, such as a light switch plate, that you can make kind of neat and different, and so I make some things with the doll faces or the leaves, and it's like I remember where that leaf came from. It came from the museum. Or the doll face makes me laugh every time I walk past it. I've turned them into towel bars and door stops, and so you can really mix things up.
While Jeanne loves to cast, she actually started in the nearby smithy, where shop foreman Jim Masterson works the forge.
I used to be an engineering student, and I took a art class to fill a requirement, and got hooked on blacksmithing.
Jim says blacksmithing is somewhat of a lost art. That's why he's drawn to the fire of the forge, to keep it burning for future generations. It also becomes somewhat of a challenge to him to force the steel to surrender to his authority.
See how the bar starts to open up for me? And that will allow me to put a tenon through there. So I'm gonna heat it up, and we're going to do the same thing again here. Hold. Take it out.
Jim and Jacob work the orange hot metal until they get the opening they desire. It may look like grueling work, but Jim says you'd be surprised how flexible the steel can be.
How plastic the steel really is when you heat it up. It's just like Play-Doh. And a lot of people don't. What somebody can do in clay, we can do with the same piece of steel when we get it hot.
The smithy and the foundry are located on the back portion of the museum property. The main exhibits are on display in the front area of the grounds. All of this property used to be part of the U.S. Marine Hospital, constructed during the Roosevelt administration in the 1930s, and was later abandoned. And this 3.2-acre site, along with the 3 buildings and the most spectacular view of the Mississippi River, came at the right price, just $1 a year to the city of Memphis.
$1 a year lease on a piece of property that nobody wanted. So, we were responsible for the buildings. It was founded in '76 and opened in '79. So over those 3 years, the founding director, Wally, worked for no check, as we've reminded of often. is restoring all these buildings. And he just restored this building we're in, one room at a time.
And now the buildings are home to some of the most unique and exquisite ironwork in the world. And not all exhibits are of iron and metal. Some displays are of paintings of noteworthy artists who may use several different mediums in their work. Charles Ferriman, Chief Administrative Officer, says everyone brings something to the table to make the museum extraordinary.
We all do a little bit of everything from exhibit design to drywall or anything that's needed, and that's actually nice and the job's not boring.
Outside the buildings, the grounds offer an eclectic sculpture garden featuring works by prominent European and local smiths. You can also take in the majestic view of the Mississippi River from a handcrafted pavilion made of historic castings. And last but not least is the conservation and preservation portion of the Metal Museum. Kevin Bird restores the rare and antique pieces like this centuries-old clock whose soldier is missing a sword.
I find it extremely satisfying to be able to make my own stuff.
Each area of the museum helps show, preserve, and educate the public on the impact metalwork has on our everyday life.
Lots of people come in and might not have any interest in the exhibit, but the shop is interesting to them. The grounds are free. It's a nice 4-acre park, and you just come in, it's got a good view of the river.